What's up, guys? I've been away from doing book reviews for a little bit. I know this isn't my most popular content, but it's content that I think is important and that matters to me. So I'm back with another book review. Today I have The Creative Act, A Way of Being. Got a little weed on the cover, my bad. By Rubin. Obviously, if you clicked on the title, you're probably somewhat familiar. And then if you're not familiar with Rick Rubin, he is one of the founders of Def Jam and people would consider one of the most influential people in production rooms and producers. Not real like beat maker, but still helping with the production of music in the modern day. And a lot of people would say he's a complete fraud, just a rich white man who has benefits in life. And I'm leaning more towards important. Even after reading this book, there are mindsets to creating, and even if you erased everything he's done in his career and he was able to roadmap out the creative process for us and put it in this concise of a book that I'm about to talk about, he did his role as an artist on this earth. I just simply don't get why he's hated so much. I don't think that everybody's art is a technical skill, and I understand he doesn't have very many technical skills, and I think some people believe that he's giving permission for other people not to get fundamental skills. But with his success and his track record, clearly he has skills, just not skills that are completely quantifiable in notes and words and sentences and things like that. So let's get into it. I finished this on April 16th, 2024, so just last week, and the medium was this hardcover book. And I liked reading it. Just to start, one thing is it has like 3-page chapters. Like he has like one idea, he covers it quickly, succinctly, moves on. And I like that. If you're someone who struggles with even like 10-page chapters or struggles with long like passages, this is the perfect book for you. It does make it a little bit hard to read because it feels like you're like, damn, I just read 7 chapters. In reality, you read like 20 pages. At the same time, if you're someone who does struggle with long, and I struggle with long chapters, like I don't like a book that has like 30-40 page chapters. It messes with me. And everybody likes different stuff in their reading. This is probably a little bit choppier than I would want if it wasn't tips and it wasn't that type of like advice type of book. If it was more storytelling, I wouldn't want it this way, but because it's not, I really do appreciate it. Me saying all of this, it took me a long time to read this book. I got this book for Christmas, so the end of December, and I didn't finish it until April. And to give you some perspective, I've been reading other books simultaneously, so probably like 3 going at the same time on average, but this took me a while to read. It took me a while to get through. Part of it is the ideas, letting it sink in. Part of it is having less time to read this year than I have in the past. And part of it is, it's a lot of information to take in. Some passages, and I guess this links to the first point I just made, but some passages I wanted to let it sink in. I wanted to let it marinate. I might even had to reread a couple things because there are some ideas that I really appreciated that I didn't want to forget. And there's so many ideas. It's really a book that could be read over and over again, or it could just be left by your toilet and you just pick up and see it and open it up to any page, and there's something useful in there. It's that type of book. And so let me get into my main takeaways. My first main takeaway from this book, and this was probably the hardest main takeaway section I've ever done, is to have a beginner's mind when creating. When we do anything, I think it's important. This idea is important. And so the idea for creating is when you look at your art, when you look at other people's art, or when you're trying to start even a new project or even revise an old project, to have that same curiosity and not as much jade as like an older artist that's established and has a routine. Kind of be willing to break routine sometimes. Be willing to change the way you think about something. Be willing to change the perspective of which you think about something. Change the way that you think about somebody else talking about your art or whatever you've created. Just being able to have a little bit of naivete or whatever, like be a little bit naive when you create, in the sense of don't use your preconceived notions all the time to affect what's happening, because it could be a different set of circumstances. I think that's good when you in relationships as well. Like, treat people like you're kind of re-meeting them for an idea, and that will help, because we really are getting new versions of people, especially if you've had friendships and relationships over years, and especially if you've taken time away from people. So let people grow, let yourself grow. Don't judge yourself based off of who you were last year or even yesterday necessarily. I think having a beginner's mind is a good way to embrace much of life, not just art. My next biggest takeaway was accept new ideas as novel. And he talks about whether it's your idea or other people's ideas, don't be so quick to kill new ideas because they feel off or they feel weird or whatever. Take them for what they are. It's just an idea. It doesn't define you. It doesn't define even necessarily how you feel about a situation. It doesn't define your whole future, and it doesn't define your past. It's just an idea. So when you encounter other people's new ideas and you counter your own ideas, just don't try your best to avoid that knee-jerk reaction, whatever it is, whether it's overly positive or overly negative. Just understand it's an idea, and understand it's something that can be worked with, or it's something that can be thrown away. Many times in our society, new ideas have really been shit on so quickly or praised so quickly that they just fizzle out, instead of giving that time for the idea to mature and then naturally die out, or to grow as it could naturally do. But if it's too forced either way, it really doesn't stand a chance. My third main takeaway from the book is that there are many ways to be an artist, and they all require action, work, and releasing. So there's so many artists, like, ways out there. I mean, obviously, even things like woodworking. You could talk about like growing weed and growing plants is art. You could talk about, obviously, things that happen on the computer. Obviously, like video making like this could be an art. Music and the natural arts, or the normal arts as well, painting and sculpting and all that stuff is art. And they all require you to take action, to like get started and to be a beginner. But that takes action to be a beginner in the beginning. It takes work in the middle and consistent work pretty much the whole time from beginning until you don't want to do it anymore. And then to really be an artist on the back end, it takes releasing it into the world, even if it's to a few people. Not necessarily the entire world, but it takes that bit of vulnerability and putting it out there to even feel as an artist. Because you can create for yourself, obviously, and just stow stuff away in boxes in your closet or whatever. But I don't believe you could really feel like an artist until you get some type of feedback on it. And as sad as that is, I don't think it's sad, because humans are made to be together. Humans are made to give each other feedback and communicate. It's just a part of the artist process. But you need all three processes, and you need to repeat them consistently for you to even dream of being a professional artist. These are just the fundamentals for a beginner artist at the end of the day. And I believe my last main takeaway from this book is to stop aiming for sincerity. No, actually I have two more, sorry. Is stop aiming for sincerity. This was an idea towards the end of the book that he brought up, and I feel this. A lot of times you're like, is this true to me? Is this sincere? Is this whatever? And a lot of times we tweak it, and if we just put out what we felt and actually thought, it would actually come out as sincere. But when you aim for sincere, you're actually aiming for a story of yourself that you've told yourself over the years, and that you're now trying to sell that story to others rather than what you actually believe. And that is not being sincere. And we see that. If you watch a lot of content, if you watch shows, if you read books, and you can tell that that person isn't really, like music, we can tell the people who are being sincere in what they're saying in their music and who aren't. Sometimes we can, but you typically can. Like if they release enough, maybe if they release one song and it's misrepresented, but then they're also going to fizzle out in history. But people who have a track record of music, we can tell when they're being sincere in their music and when they're not, or their art of any type. Just create what you believe in that moment. And this was a big idea from this book. I'm preaching this, but I'm not saying I made this up. This was the idea in the book, is to create what you believe you need to be creating, or what you really just want to create, And the sincerity is there because it's what you want to do, not because you're trying to convince the audience that you're being sincere in what you're doing. So the last takeaway I'm going to bring up from the book is adapting life to be the artist you want to be. And this is a process I've been trying to do over the last 3 or 4 years. Being an artist consistently takes a lot of adaptation. It takes changing sleep schedules. It takes changing exercise schedules. It takes, for many people, it takes changing partnership schedules, like how you cooperate with other people. If you have children, it takes using manipulating that schedule to be able to create when you need to. It takes a lot of adaptations in our personal life, and then those adaptations just come out on the page, the song, the record, the video, whatever. But it takes changing those fundamental habits, and those will snowball into being the creator you want to be over time. And it's a patient process, but it takes changing those fundamental habits and even mind processes to be the artist that we want to be in the future, and then consistency with that. So let's get to who it's for. I believe it's for anybody who wants to create. I also believe that the book, like I said earlier, just because it's short and mixed up like that, or split up like that, I think it's great for people with short attention spans who can't read long chapters. I think it's great for people who feel blocked, even just to get ideas, because he gives a lot of ideas to cultivate new ideas and how to sit in it and be a little bit bored and to be able to open your mind up to these different ideas. I think it's great for people who want to establish a process. Like I just talked about, art takes process for everybody, and everybody's process is slightly different, but it does take some type of process if there's going to be any type of consistency. I think you could learn a lot about establishing an artistic process. And then someone just exploring their own personal creativity, someone who maybe has seen themselves as one thing, such as an athlete or a scientist or whatever, but feels like, as I feel like we all have some streak of wanting to be an artist, wanting to create something in this book could open your mind just to try something different, try something new. And I think that's what life is about, is trying something new and getting out of that comfort zone and creating something that could inspire somebody else. And so walking away from this book, as I closed it and I finished, and now as I reflect on the book a week later, what I'm walking away with is to create no matter what, it can always be edited. So when you get these ideas, or when you're in the position to just be creating consistently, in terms of writing daily, in terms of getting in a music studio daily, in terms of getting in a pottery studio daily, or at least 5-6 days a week, when we're talking about creating these consistent habits, just keep creating. Not a lot of thought needs to go into a lot of stuff, especially when you're in those phases, which he goes through in this book, of the creation process, of taking it from an idea to taking it to a full-fledged piece that you're willing to push out into the world. There's a lot of steps in between. But if you keep moving forward and you keep creating, and then you just keep editing and you keep creating, eventually you're going to start finishing things. And focus on finishing. Give yourself deadlines, things like that, which are all things in the process that Rick Rubin dives into in the book. And so if you're someone who's interested in learning this process and creating a process for yourself, and you're just interested in creating things, I think The Creative Act, A Way of Being is a great book for you. And also, guys, the last thing I'll say about any book like this, I've seen videos online of people tearing it apart. We don't have to accept all of the advice in it. I don't even go to church and accept everything the pastor says. Take what you need, leave the rest. Make sure you guys open up a book, read something, put in the comments what you're reading right now. I'm curious. I appreciate you guys coming back. I'll be back soon with another episode. I'll see you guys next time.